The shocking truth behind Bentley's tragic journey. 3 lessons learned for the night air hung thick with tension as whispers trailed through the tiny town of Maplewood. Bentley Morrow's car lay crumpled on the side of the road like a discarded toy. It was more than just an accident. It felt like a shroud of darkness descended over the whole community, the kind of event that changes everything. What had happened that fateful evening? Friends claimed to hear eerie sounds before the crash, not just the screech of tires, but unsettling echoes, as if the wind carried secrets too heavy to tell. As the flashing lights danced against the backdrop of the starless sky, hearts raced and stomachs churned. Everyone felt it, the dread, the unease that something far more sinister loomed just out of sight. Among the chaos, strange details emerged. Bentley wasn't just a boy with dreams of baseball glory. He had an unsettling knack for drawing odd symbols that resembled ancient hieroglyphics. In his room, cluttered with trophies and baseball cards, sketch pads bore these cryptic signs. A peculiar mix of fascination and fear filled the air as word of them spread. His art seemed to whisper of warnings, of premonitions, leaving those who knew him questioning everything. Was it mere teenage angst? Or was there something darker lurking behind Bentley's passion? The townsfolk gathered. Hushed murmurs formed a collective gasp. Bentley's family stood rooted in disbelief, eyes wide with shock, the reality of their son's mysterious life hanging thick like fog around them. They exchanged glances, a palpable tension shimmering in the atmosphere. What did the symbols mean? Who was Bentley really? Just then, a cracking voice pierced through the collective sorrow. Did you see what was on that sketch pad? It sent shivers down spines as the question circled through the crowd like wildfire, igniting their curiosity and horror. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Then came the first signs of hope amid the despair. Bentley's best friend, Jared, found something in the wreck that felt out of place. A small pendant, intricately carved, with the same glyphs from Bentley's drawings. As he held it up, the crowd gasped. Was it just a coincidence? Or had Bentley known something, been trying to tell them all along? The questions hung in the air like electricity, drawing everyone closer. They wanted answers. They needed to understand what led to this terrible night. And as Bentley lay fighting for his life in the hospital, his secrets seemed to rest on the threshold of revelation, just waiting to be unlocked. But what lay behind those symbols and the pendant? What had Bentley really known? The night was far from over, and the answers felt tantalizingly close yet impossibly out of reach. The hospital's fluorescent lights flickered above like uncertain stars. Bentley lay unconscious, his face pale against the stark white of the sheets. Machines beeped steadily, punctuating the heavy silence that enveloped the room. Jared clutched the pendant tightly in his fist, his heart racing. Was it a talisman of fate, a link to the past, or an omen of doom? Outside, the townspeople buzzed with anxious energy. They had gathered to share their speculations, conjectures flying in every direction. He must be known something, an older woman murmured. Her eyes glossed over with tears. Those symbols, they can't just be scribbles. A man in a cap shook his head, feeling a shiver creep up his spine. Jared couldn't shake the feeling that Bentley's artwork held a deeper truth. The shadows hidden in those drawings played in his mind like a broken record. Deep down, he feared the truth might lead to something unfathomable. His breath quickened. He had to find answers, not just for himself, but for Bentley. Driven by a mixture of determination and dread, Jared took the pendant to the town's cryptic historian, Mrs. Hargrove, an elderly woman with a storied past. Her wrinkled hands trembled as she accepted the pendant, her eyes sparkling with recognition. This is part of an ancient legend, she whispered, her voice almost lost in the cacophony of distant sirens. It's said to summon spirits and reveal hidden truths. But beware, not all secrets want to be uncovered. Spirits? Legends? What are you talking about? Jared felt a chill creep through him. Suddenly, the weight of the pendant became unbearable in his palm. The symbols, she continued, represent a gateway, a doorway between worlds. She looked directly at him, her gaze piercing. They were drawn by those who sought to communicate with the beyond. If Bentley was drawing them, it means he was reaching out to something or someone. Jared's heart raced in panic. How could Bentley have gotten tangled up in something so otherworldly? What should I do? Jared asked, desperation lacing his voice. Find the remaining symbols. Complete the connection, and you may learn the truth about that night. With newfound urgency, Jared left Mrs. Hargrove's home, the night swallowing him whole. He hurried back to the wreckage, his mind racing. Each step was heavier than the last, yet the pull of the unknown galvanized him forward. What if he uncovered something unfathomable? What if the truth was more terrifying than he could imagine? As he rifled through the debris, the moonlight shone upon a scrap of paper partially buried in the mud. Hoisting it up, he felt his breath catch. More glyphs sprawled across it, drawn hastily, reminiscent of Bentley's art. They were notes, incomplete, but alive with a pulse of urgency. As he deciphered them, the words seeped into his mind. Beware the watchers in the night, his pulse quickened. Who were the watchers? A sudden rustle in the dark sent adrenaline coursing through his veins. He turned, scanning the darkness that surrounded him. Were there really eyes watching from the shadows? Panic threatened to consume him as he felt an unseen presence creeping closer. Then, from the corner of his eye, a figure emerged. What did Jared see? In the realm of shadows, was there something worse than the truth waiting to be discovered? The figure stepped forward, its silhouette deceptively familiar yet shrouded in shadow. Jared squinted against the darkness. His heart pounded so hard it echoed in his ears. Was it a trick of the moonlight? As it drew near, the glint of something metallic caught his eye. Jared? A voice called out, low and taut like a stretched wire. It was Ella, Bentley's sister, her eyes wide and luminous against the night's embrace. Relief washed over him for just a moment before the anxiety returned. What are you doing here? He stammered, uncertainty gnawing at him. You should be at the hospital. I couldn't sit idly while this is happening. She replied, her voice trembling. I felt like I had to do something. I found this, she said, producing a crumpled notebook from her jacket. He had it with him when it happened. Jared's fingers itched to take the notebook. He reached for it, their hands briefly brushing against each other. The warmth of her skin sent a surge of emotions tearing through him: fear, longing, desperation. What did he write? Just more of those strange symbols, she said, her eyes darting nervously toward the trees. It's like he was trying to decode something. It doesn't make sense, Jared. The wind picked up, whispering its secrets through the trees as if trying to drown out her words. Jared glanced back at the paper he'd just found. What Bentley drew was somehow connected to this moment, the fear creeping in, the stakes rising. We have to do this together, Ella, he insisted, holding her gaze. If there's a chance this could help Bentley, we owe it to him. Okay, she nodded, but her face was painted with doubt. But if it brings danger, if it brings those watchers, we could be stepping into something we can't control. Maybe, Jared admitted, his voice steady, yet a part of him recoiled at the thought. But what if uncovering the truth is the only way to save him? They settled where the ground was firm, illuminated by the spectral glow of the moon. Ella opened the notebook, revealing the sketches, each symbol pulsing under the pale light. Jared's eyes darted from one symbol to another, piecing together the fragmented lore he had heard from Mrs. Hargrove. He recognized the images, figures etched in desperation, their faces twisted in anguish. Wait, Jared pointed, his finger hovering over a drawing. This symbol here, it's the same one from the pendant. Ella leaned closer, the proximity igniting a thrill of urgency between them. So it's a part of it, she whispered, as if the words might awaken whatever lay dormant in the drawings. What do we do now? Maybe we need to find the others, Jared replied, scanning the ground for clues, for more connections. Each one seems to represent a part of a whole, a message Bentley tried to convey. A resonating silence enveloped them, thickening the air. Suddenly, from the depths of the woods, a low groan echoed. It sent chills down Jared's spine. What was that? Ella's voice was barely audible, laced with fear. Before Jared could respond, shadows seemed to morph among the trees, swirling with a life of their own. Something was watching them, something malevolent, its presence sending a shudder through the night. Run, Jared urged, grasping Ella's hand. They bolted, adrenaline fueling their escape. But as they ran, the whispers intensified, clawing at their minds. They're coming for us, Jared's thoughts spiraled, choking him with the realization. The Watchers were real. What awaited them at the end of the darkened path? Was it salvation or an inescapable fate? They sprinted deeper into the woods, heartbeats thrumming a wild tempo in their chests. Each footfall stirred the damp earth, and the shadows seemed to writhe around them, as if the trees held their breath, waiting for anything to happen. Ella's grip tightened on Jared's hand, her breaths quickening as they pushed through the underbrush. What if they catch us? She gasped, fear threading her voice. We shouldn't have come here. We have to keep moving. Jared shouted back, darting his eyes everywhere, alert for any sign of danger. He cut through the branches, trying to carve a path, but the haunting whispers seemed to follow them, taunting and relentless. Look, Ella pointed ahead, and Jared squinted. In the dim light, they caught a glimpse of a clearing, the moonlight spilling into the space like a spotlight. The idea of refuge was a flickering hope in the darkness. As they raced toward it, primal instincts kicked in. Jared's muscles screamed with exertion, his lungs burning. But they needed answers, needed to find something, anything, to fight against the terror lurking behind them. Over here, Ella called, ducking down a narrow path that seemed to veer toward the clearing. Jared followed, his feet stumbling over roots that twisted like serpents on the forest floor. The air became thicker, electrified with an unseen force that made his skin prickle. The clearing opened up like a secret world. At its center stood a massive, ancient tree, gnarled and twisted, its bark scarred and etched with disturbing symbols that mirrored the ones in Bentley's notebook. Jared felt a rush of recognition as he took it in, but there was little time for reflection. Do you think this is it? Ella whispered, her wide eyes darting over the symbols flickering in the moonlight. Could this help Bentley? Jared stepped closer, tracing a finger over the rough bark. A jolt ran through him as his hand made contact. The symbols felt alive, pulsing beneath his touch. It's more than just drawings. It's like they're connected to something. Suddenly, a rustle erupted from the bushes behind them, followed by a low, rumbling growl that pierced the night. Jared whirled around, adrenaline surging. Shadows twisted, elongating as they spilled into the clearing, revealing dark figures moving with a predatory grace. They're here, Jared breathed, panic stealing his voice. We have to go. But Ella's eyes were fixed on the tree. No, wait. We need to figure this out. He could sense the danger closing in, but a spark of desperation ignited within him. Ella, we can't. Not now. She hesitated, wrestling with the urgency of the moment and her desperate need to understand. What if this is the key? What if we can save Bentley? The ground shook slightly as an unseen force approached. A shadow leapt forward, the sound crashing into the clearing like thunder. Jared's instinct screamed for survival, but the weight of Bentley's fate hung heavily on him. Ella, Jared shouted, grabbing her arm tightly. We need to make a choice. Now. The growl crescendoed, forming into something human-like yet twisted, eyes glinting with wickedness. In that breath-stealing moment, they were presented with a choice. Trust in the mystery of the ancient tree, or flee from the encroaching danger that had taken Bentley. Panic surged within Jared as he looked from the approaching darkness to Ella's fearful face. What lay ahead? Could they unravel the truth before it was too late, or would the Watchers snatch away their last hope? The path forward blurred between danger and revelation, And what choice would lead them to salvation? Let us make it count, Jared urged, knowing their next move could change everything. The growl echoed in the clearing, a sound that rattled through the trees, vibrating in Jared's chest. His heart raced faster than his feet could carry him. He could see the shadows coalescing, forming into grotesque shapes, almost human yet blurring at the edges, like paintings smeared by a careless hand. Run! Jared screamed, dragging Ella back as instinct took over. But she stood there, rooted to the ground, eyes locked on the ancient tree, her fingers trembling against the rough bark. No, we can't. This could hold the answer. Desperation clawed at him. What answer? Look at that thing. He gestured wildly at the creatures stumbling toward them. Their movements were too fluid, too wrong. He could feel their malice, a chilling presence that sent dread racing through his veins. Jared, Ella whispered, her voice barely audible. Those symbols, they feel connected to me, to us. It's like I've seen them in my dreams. He wanted to scream, to shake her out of this trance. This isn't your dream, Ella. It's real. But before he could say another word, one of the shadows lunged forward, and Jared barely had time to step back. The creature barreled through the air, its claws like twisted steel. Go, now, he yelled, and the urgency snapped Ella awake. Her hand broke free from the tree's grip, but even as they began to run, she cast a final glance back at the ancient figure looming over them. The clearing shrieked as branches snapped beneath their frantic steps. The forest yawned around them, an echo of suffering that pulled at their souls. Behind them, the creatures were relentless, growls morphing into snarls, footfalls pounding like drums in the night. Should we split up? Jared suggested, grasping for any strategy, panic whitening his cheeks. They were outnumbered and outmatched. No, whatever we do, we have to stick together. Ella's voice was firm. He nodded, even as a flicker of doubt twisted in his gut. What if they were leading each other deeper into danger? The trees began to thin, giving way to tangled bushes and vines that grabbed at their clothes. Just when Jared thought they might find a path, a deafening roar echoed, reverberating through the ground. The sound was filled with rage and hunger, a promise of death. They broke through the last boundary of trees, stumbling into another clearing. It was smaller and simpler, dominated by a shallow, murky pond whose still waters reflected a fractured moon. But it held darkness too, an unsettling weight that pressed upon them. Do you see that? Ella pointed, breathless. In the center of the pond, half submerged in the murky water, laid what looked like an altar, made of stone and encrusted with the same symbols they had seen on the tree. Could this be connected? Ella whispered, stepping forward, drawn by an invisible thread of curiosity. No, Jared shouted, panic bursting forth. Not again. But his words fell on deaf ears. Ella stood at the water's edge, entranced by the altar, the symbols pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the forest. Shadows crept in from the edges, the figures now fully formed, their eyes flickering with a sinister glee. Jared's own fear froze him as the growl came again, echoing from behind them, reminding him that danger was ever present and demanding their attention. It was then he realized they had become the sacrifice, caught between evil and the final truth about Bentley's disappearance. Ella! He lunged toward her, fear exploding in his chest as he reached for her hand. But the pond began to ripple, waves spreading with sinister intent, and Jared could only watch as the altar seemed to beckon. What have we awoken? He breathed, heart racing. Would the truth be their salvation, or the darkness that consumed them whole? And as they stood, caught between two worlds, the growl of the creatures morphed into laughter, a chilling, mocking sound that sent shivers down his spine. Run, or stay, Jared desperately weighed, trusting the ominous discovery before them or battling the dark beings that hunted them relentlessly. What choice would secure their fate? The laughter echoed in his ears, a twisted symphony of evil that sent a jolt through Jared's body. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, yet here stood Ella, caught in a web of symbols and shadows. Ella, please, he nearly pleaded, his voice cracking. We don't have time for this. But she didn't budge. The altar seemed to glow with an eerie light, reflecting her wide eyes. He could see a depth of longing there, something almost desperate, as if the altar was whispering secrets only she could hear. The growls grew louder, reverberating like thunder rolling in from the horizon, promising a storm of terror. "We have to go," Jared screamed again, but the desperate edge in his voice only seemed to fan the flames of her curiosity. "Jared, look," she said, pointing at the altar. He followed her gaze, and his stomach twisted with shock. Symbols began to flash, shimmering like fireflies just above the surface of the water. He knew those symbols, had seen them in the ravaged corners of his past, in stories told by parents or whispered among townsfolk in hushed tones. They were both a warning and an invitation, and he could feel their pull even as it terrified him. "Ella!" he shouted, taking a step closer himself, against every atom of caution in his body. "Get away from there." But something sinister shifted in the air, tangible and vile, as one of the shadowed figures lunged from behind a tree, snapping its gnashing teeth wickedly close to Jared's ear. He whipped around, adrenaline rushing through him. Time slowed. He felt every heartbeat echoing like a drum. "Back!" he yelled, shoving Ella away from the pond's edge. They staggered out of reach just as the water began to churn violently, the altar rising from its depths like a leviathan from the abyss. The shadows surrounding them began to circle, their growls morphing into a cacophony of whispers, accusations saturating the air. "You have awakened us," they taunted, their voices layered like a sickening harmony. "You cannot escape your fate." Jared grabbed Ella's arm, his grip tightening as they backed away. "What's happening? What do they want?" "They want," Ella's voice faltered. Understanding crept onto her face as realization smacked into her like an icy wave. "The altar, it's a portal. Connects us." "No," Jared interrupted, shaking his head. "Connects them." He didn't want to believe it, but the truth hung heavy between them. The first creature darted forward, clawed hands reaching out, reflecting the dim moonlight like shards of glass. Without thinking, Jared yanked Ella to the side. They barely dodged it, the force sending them tumbling to the forest floor. "Get up, we have to run," he shouted, dragging her to her feet. But still, she hesitated, her eyes darting back towards the altar. They could hear the shadows closing in, a low, primal growl rising like a tide. With a powerful heave of panic, Jared pulled her past the altar. "We're not losing each other." The moment they cleared the pond's edge, the growling intensified, accompanied by the sound of thunderous footsteps. A knot of panicked confusion twisted in Jared's chest. Suddenly, Ella broke free, racing towards the altar again. "It's calling me," she screamed. "Don't do it," Jared yelled, desperate. But as she rushed forward, the creatures gave a chilling cheer, their forms coalescing into a wave of darkness, blocking any retreat. "Ella!" Jared's voice cracked, anxiety surging through him. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. Was he supposed to save her from herself or reach for the truth? As she stood there, the symbols on the altar flared brightly, illuminating her face like a spotlight in the night. Felt like destiny hung in the balance. "Jared, I have to know," she cried, as the air around them thickened with tension, shadows swirling dangerously close, taunting. What would she find if she crossed that threshold? Could he really let her risk it all? And before he could respond, the altar surged, pulling Ella into its depths, a beam of light swallowing her whole. "Ella!" he screamed, but she disappeared without a trace, leaving him alone in the darkness, surrounded by creatures twisted in malevolence. Jared stood frozen, a single thought piercing through his fog of fear. What would he do? Would he follow her into the unknown or face the shadows alone? The fate of everything was suddenly spinning out of control. In that wild moment where hope flickered dimly, Jared raced toward the altar, every instinct roaring against him. Fear surged through him, but he couldn't lose her, not like this. "Ella!" he screamed, plunging into the light. What would he find on the other side? And would the truth he sought be enough to pull them both back? The world collapsed around him in a blinding flash, colors swirling in an unholy dance. Jared felt weightless, suspended between two realms. A gust of chilling air brushed against his skin, sending shivers down his spine. He gasped, tearing through the fog, trying to grasp his surroundings. Then, silence, a heavy, suffocating silence. He found himself sprawled on cold, hard ground, the air thick with an oppressive energy that clawed at his throat. His heart raced as he struggled to rise, each pulse a reminder of the decision that had brought him here. "Ella!" he cried out, the sound echoing into nothingness. Panic rose in his chest. Had she made it through? Was she here? The landscape around him appeared both haunting and beautiful, a surreal blend of shimmering light and dark shadows. Jagged cliffs loomed in the distance, surrounded by a haunting mist that twisted and shifted, masking any form of life. Any sense of safety evaporated as the whispers returned, slithering into his mind like a serpent. "You cannot escape," they hissed, their voices sharp as shattered glass. "You chose to cross." A knot twisted in his stomach. The altar had been a doorway, a switchboard for lost souls. Desperation filled him. He needed to find her without thinking. He pushed himself to his feet and stumbled forward, the ground shifting beneath him like a living entity. Instinct drove him. He followed the faintest light flickering through the haze. Each step felt heavier, the shadows hungry, waiting for the moment to close in around him. "Ella!" he yelled again, desperation fueling his voice. "Where are you?" Through the fog, he caught a glimpse of movement, a shadow darting to the right. His breath quickened. Was it her? Or was it something more sinister, lurking within the darkness? As he hurried into the mist, the air thickened with danger, and he felt a claw of dread grip him tighter. Each footfall echoed in hollow unrest, amplifying the approaching whispers. They swirled around him, menacing and clear. "Join us, embrace your fate, no," he shouted. "I won tea." But even as determination etched his features, doubt sank its claws into his heart. Had he truly thought they could escape this nightmare? Suddenly, an otherworldly wail cut through the darkness, followed by laughter that erupted like thunder. The shadows beckoned, swirling around him, their forms grotesque and alluring. Jared fought against the pull, focusing with every fiber of his being on Ella. "Stay away from her," he shouted. He sprinted, adrenaline propelling him faster. The shadows hissed in displeasure, fury building as they surged to intercept him. There, through a curtain of mist, he spotted a figure, the outline unmistakably feminine. His heart raced with hope as he dashed toward her, pushing through the biting cold. But the shadows seemed to cling to him, tearing at his flesh, urging him to relent. "Ella!" he called again, desperate now, the sense of urgency suffocating. Would he reach her in time? The figure turned, shock rippling through Jared's veins as he recognized the face beneath the haze. It was her, but something was different. Her eyes shone with a fierce light, a mix of terror and determination. "Jared!" she shouted back, her voice a lifeline, but it wavered. "You shouldn't be here. Neither should you." He reached for her, their fingertips brushing as the shadows closed in, thrumming with anticipation. "Jared, listen to me," she yelled, her voice cutting through the fog. "This place, it changes you. You need to find a way back." But before she could finish, a grinding roar echoed through the dimension, and the ground trembled beneath them. Jared felt the energy shift, a rift opening, a tumultuous maw threatening to swallow them both. "I'm not leaving you," Jared shouted, panic bubbling as the shadows surged forward. They lashed out, dark tendrils wrapping around him, pulling him backward. "Jared!" Ella's scream pierced the air. He felt himself wavering, teetering on the brink of oblivion. The brightness of her presence flickered, and he realized the stakes were higher than he'd ever imagined. With all the strength he could muster, he clasped her hand. "We'll get through together." In that moment, a surge of strange energy passed between them, an electric connection. They were not just fighting mere shadows. This was a battle for their very souls. As the darkness pressed in, they braced themselves for the unknown. Would their combined light be enough to banish the looming shadows? Or would they both disappear, swallowed by the very portal they had dared to traverse? What if, Jared thought, as uncertainty lingered in the air, what if the truth they sought was not just freedom, but the very heart of the shadows chasing them? The shadows writhed and coiled, pulling Jared deeper into their abyss. With Ella's hand clasped in his, the world teetered on the edge of madness. He could feel the darkness clawing at his mind, prying open the doors of doubt and despair. It was suffocating, a heavy weight bearing down on him, smothering every spark of hope they had ignited. Jared, we have to. Ella's voice was drowned out by the roar around them, the cacophony rising to a breaking point. He could see the rift pulsating, hunger radiating from its core. Fear flickered in her eyes, a primal terror that mirrored his own. The whispers twisted their words, promising escape, freedom, and a dark allure that tugged at the recesses of his mind. Embrace us, Jared, let go of your fear. We'll give you power. Stop, he screamed, squeezing Ella's hand tighter. The connection sent a shockwave through him, grounding his spiraling thoughts. We have to fight this together. As if his words had drawn attention, the shadows halted, momentarily retreating. All that remained was a swirling vortex of darkness threatening to consume their very essence. The whispers faded into an ominous silence, replaced by a distant thrum that vibrated through the ground. The air flickered with energy, a foreboding sign of what was to come. Do you feel that? Ella asked, her voice trembling but resolute. It's like they're trying to communicate. Jared nodded, eyes scanning their surroundings. What do you mean? What are they saying? They're feeding off our emotions, our fears. We need to distract them, focus on something else. In that moment, a memory flashed before his eyes. A day in the sunlight, Ella laughing. Their friends gathered for a barbecue. The smell of grilled burgers, the sound of music playing softly in the background. Her radiant smile lighting up the entire scene. Think of all the good moments, he urged, his grip not wavering. The times we fought against the odds. Remember why we're here. Ella's face softened, her fierce determination breaking through the haze of fear. You're right. Those moments, they give us strength. Together, they closed their eyes, drawing upon the reservoir of light buried deep within them. The shadows recoiled, screeching in protest as warmth began to flicker around Jared and Ella, illuminating their path. The dark tendrils released their hold, retreating as they unleashed a wave of energy that lightened the oppressive atmosphere. But with their momentary triumph came a new voice, a deeper, malevolent presence, reverberating through the very fabric of the dimension. You think this light can save you? You're merely postponing the end. Who are you? Jared challenged, his heart pounding as fear seeped back in. What do you want with us? The entity unleashed a laugh that echoed like thunder, rippling through the air. I am what you've created in your minds. I'm your guilt, your regrets. Without facing me, you'll never escape. Ella shuddered beside him, her confidence wavering. Jared, yes, right. We need to confront our fears, the things we've hidden from ourselves. Only then can we break free. Anguish twisted Jared's features. But what if facing them means losing everything? No, she pressed, meeting his gaze with fierce resolve once more. It means facing the truth. It's the only way. Together. As uncertainty gnawed at them, a flicker of courage ignited within Jared's chest. We will face you, he shouted, defiance burning in the depths of his being. The shadows coalesced, vibrating with palpable anger. The light surrounding them grew more intense, but so did the darkness. With the confrontation building, Jared felt a tumultuous choice loom ahead. Would they stand together, embracing the painful truths that lurked within, or would they let fear eclipse their spark of hope? The shadows rushed forward in a frenzy, and Jared knew time was running out. But then Ella's voice cut through the roiling chaos. It's now or never, Jared. Are you ready to face yourself? As darkness surged around them, Jared clenched his jaw, heart racing before the inevitable clash. The resonant question hung in the air, looming larger than life. What awaited was the true reflection of their souls, and the secrets they had buried deep within. Would they find salvation, or would this darkness consume them whole? The shadows pushed forward, an oppressive tide that threatened to drown them. Jared could feel their chill creeping under his skin, slithering through his veins like ice. He tightened his grip on Ella, her warmth anchoring him in a sea of despair. "We can do this," he barked, but his conviction felt shaky, like an old bridge ready to crumble. "Remember the moments," Ella shouted, her voice strong above the rising howls. "Think of our love, our dreams. They can't take that from us." Jared squeezed his eyes shut, letting the memory wash over him like a soothing balm. He could see it clearly. The two of them at the ocean, waves crashing, laughter ringing like music against the backdrop of sprawling sunlight. They were carefree, two souls dancing around a bonfire, hopeful and alive. "Focus on that," he urged, drawing strength from her presence in the midst of chaos. "We have more to fight for than this darkness." The shadows writhed violently, their whispers now sharp, filled with rage. "You think your memories can shield you? How naive. You are defined by your fears, and they will consume you." "No." Ella's voice pierced through the cacophony. "We are more than our fears. We will not let them win." With each word, the light around them flickered stronger, pushing against the darkness, feeling alive. Jared opened his eyes, determination igniting within him. The shadows began to retreat, shrieking in fury, but then they morphed into more familiar forms. Shapes he knew all too well, faces of people they had lost, mistakes they regretted, fears they had tucked away. "Look, Jared," Ella gasped, shaking him slightly as her gaze turned hollow. It's all the pain we've buried. Our past. We have to confront them." His heart raced. Within each shadow lay a memory, the betrayal of a friend, the suffocating silence after loss, the choices they regretted. They loomed over him, faces twisted in anguish, voicing his deepest fears. "What if they're right?" he whispered. "What if I can't do this?" "Face them," Ella cried, anguish lacing her voice. "We must face our darkest moments. Only then can we break free." Jared felt fear tighten around his chest like a vice. But he knew Ella was right. If they didn't confront their demons, they'd remain trapped in this void forever. Suddenly, the shadows lunged at him, their icy grip wrapping around his throat. The faces spoke in unison, their voices harsh and discordant. "You failed us, Jared. You drove us away. You'll never escape your guilt," he gasped, struggling against their hold. The pain of their voices pierced his heart, a sharp blade cutting deep. Despair threatened to swallow him whole. "No, I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he shouted, the words tearing from his throat, heavy with regret. In that moment, a flicker of light ignited from within, a realization. "No more running. I will own my mistakes. I will not let you define me." As the words erupted from his lips, the grip around his throat loosened. The darkness roared in fury, but Jared felt Ella's hand tightening around his, unyielding. Together, they stood firm, rooted in their truth. Together, they shouted, voices rising against the chaotic tide. With a fierce determination, they stepped forward into the encroaching shadows, ready to face the shards of their souls. And as they did, the shadows began to change. The faces that had joined against them, twisted in pain, began to shimmer with light. Hope dared to creep into the folds of despair. But then, without warning, the ground beneath them trembled, an ominous crack splitting the very fabric of their reality. They stumbled, uncertainty crushing down like a heavy weight. "Jared, what's happening?" Ella shrieked, fear cracking her voice. The voice of the malevolent presence surged back, deeper and more menacing. "This is merely the beginning. You are not yet free." A void opened below them, darkness swirling dangerously. As Jared and Ella clung to each other, the world spiraling into chaos. What would emerge from the depths? Would they find the strength to confront their ultimate fears, or would the shadows drag them down, crushing every ounce of hope they fought for? The darkness roared around them, a swirling tempest of despair. Jared felt the ground split beneath him, a rift threatening to swallow everything he loved. He gripped Ella's hand harder, their fingers interlocked like lifelines tethering them to hope, even as the malevolent voice echoed menacingly. "You think you can face the truth? You're anchored in fear, and I will drag you under. No, Jared shouted, the power of his defiance igniting a spark inside him. He could feel the warmth of memories surfacing, each one a fragment of their shared lives, their dreams and joys. The laughter, the stolen kisses, the time spent under the stars, these were their truths. Ella, remember that time by the fire? He urged, pulling her closer, their attention locked on the shadowy void surrounding them. Remember the warmth? Remember how we felt nothing could tear us apart? Yes. Ella's voice was a potent mix of fear and resolve. We had everything. We have to focus on that. The shadows, for a moment, shuddered, seemingly recoiling as their light began to erupt brighter, warmer. This connection isn't frail, Ella breathed, her eyes shimmering defiantly. It's powerful. We are not defined by our pains but by the love we share. The darkness erupted in rage, twisting violently, but Jared stepped forward, fearless. No, we choose our reality. You can't own us. And then they both stepped into the abyss, merging their light with the shadow's despair. And for an instant, it felt as if time stopped. Light and dark danced around them, an unholy ballet, and Jared focused even deeper. We're not afraid, he yelled, his voice rising above the howling chaos. This is our story. Together, as their conviction echoed into the void, the shadows shrieked, the cacophony morphing into a wailing melody that vibrated through the air. Their strength pushed back the darkness, illuminating forgotten corners of their souls where pain thrived, transforming it into a newfound courage. Let us confront them together, Ella said, her grip steady in his. They can't hold power over our past anymore. A guttural roar filled the air, but they pushed forward. The pain materialized before them, familiar faces surrounded by shadows, regret etched deep within their features. Jared, you failed. One echoed, its voice laced with anguish. No, he countered, heart pounding. I lived actively, fully. I will not run from my past. With Ella beside him, Jared confronted each voice, every shadow revealing buried regrets and guilt. The shadows churned, their faces morphing into specters of their memories, whispering accusations. Who you are is a failure, a shadow hissed, its eyes a swirling storm of fury and despair. Jared shook his head defiantly. What I was is not who I am. Those moments taught me resilience. They made me whole. With each shout of conviction, the light pulsed, radiant and unwavering, banishing their fears into the darkness. Finally, as they faced the remnants of their pain, the whispers softened into an echo of acceptance. I forgive us, Ella whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. We both made mistakes, but we also loved fiercely. That matters. With that, an explosion of warmth enveloped them as the shadows trembled, swirling in chaotic brilliance before erupting in a shimmer of light. I am free, they cried, voices overlapping, joining together in unity as the shadows dissipated. Dissipating into ribbons of light, Jared felt the weight lift, a bright transcendence washing over them. They stood together in that cosmic expanse, energy cascading as truths emerged, liberating them from the chains of fear. Then suddenly, there was a sharp tug, a flickering sensation that sent them rushing forward into a brilliant flash. The moment they thudded back onto solid ground, the chaos of the forest enveloped them, a memory sparking alive again, the morning sun brushing against their skin. The rift had closed behind them, sealing the darkness away. Jared and Ella turned to one another, eyes wide with relief and a newfound understanding. Gone was the echoing despair, replaced by hope radiating in. Their connection. I can't believe we made it, Ella breathed, tears glistening in her eyes. You saved us, you saved me. No, Jared smiled through the lump in his throat. We did this together. I wouldn't have left you behind. Together, they turned toward the horizon, where the dawn shattered the remnants of night. The sun painted colors across the sky, transforming the darkness back into light. As they took cautious steps back toward Maplewood, the world felt vibrant, alive. The mystery of Bentley's journey felt lighter now, a reminder of the truth they had discovered, that beyond fear lay the strength of love and connection. a truth binding them all together, and for Bentley, as well, they would carry his legacy forward, shining that light into the hearts of their town, illuminating the shadows that often lurk just below the surface. Jared turned to Ella, his heart resolute. Let us honor him. We'll share what we've learned. Make sure no one feels lost in the dark. Yes, she nodded, determination sparking. And we'll never forget. With every step back to Maplewood, they breathed in the dawn, ready to embrace whatever life offered next, grateful for the truth they had uncovered. This journey may have ended, but their lives had just begun anew. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Smash the like button now. It really helps feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Your support means everything to keep this community thriving.